involuntary manslaughter a felony, Dr. Hurry. How do you plead?
Your Honor, I am an innocent man. I therefore plead not guilty.
Thank you.
I truly feel that Conrad Murray is simply the fall guy. This was definitely something that was premeditated, that they had planned to do, and they planned to take my brother out, and my brother knew it, and that's why he told me repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly that this was going to happen to him. He explained it to me. He explained it's because of my catalog, which is my publishing, and they're after it, and they want it, and they want their hands on it, and they want to take it away from me. So Michael developed this love-hate relationship with his catalog. I don't want it because it's going to destroy my life. No, it's mine. I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to let them rip it apart and take it from me. This went back and forth. I began to see his personality change. Michael had notes in his house saying how he hates John Branca, he hates Randy Phillips, he doesn't want them around, he'll never fly with them. He just went on and on expressing how he felt about these people. These people were all involved. Mind you, the will, I truly believe and I know that the will is fake. Because Michael was in New York when the will was signed, and they say he signed it in LA, and he did not. And they know this. But yet they put themselves as the executors on this estate. There was another guy that was in the will, Barry Siegel, but he pleasantly removed himself from it. Why would he do that? Because he knew that it was fake and he wasn't going to get involved in the skullduggery. That's why.
I must have been about 15 when I started to talk to him, Uri Geller, who I later found out to be managing Michael Jackson. Anyway, the reason why I spoke to him was because I was fascinated by him. I mean, the way he used to bend spoons, the influence he had on many people, and most importantly, what I thought was his positive energy. You know, good positive energy. I say this because, I mean, he used to always say things like, love ever, hurt never, love all, serve all, pray for the sick, and I was genuinely attracted to that. I mean, he even told me he fought during the 6-Day War, Israel versus the Arabs, and he did quite a lot of things which he regretted. And I thought, you know, here is a genuine man. Anyway, I was going through a rough time at school, probably needed a bit of help, counselling, you know, and a big brother figure. And Uri was someone I really looked up to, and the closest to a big brother figure. So we were emailing one another until one day he gave me his number. So I decided to call. I remember that first call, very nervous, and I rang. Someone called Hannah picked up, very sweet voice, and I quickly hung up the phone. And I remember talking to Uri about it, emailing him saying, you know, this is what happened, and Uri obviously told me that that was his daughter, nothing to be scared of, and so on and so forth. Anyway, emails kept on going back and forth until I decided to call him again. And I remember we were on the phone probably for a couple of hours when I rang the second time. And I was telling him about my problems, and he was a very good listener. You know, he was listening to me, he wasn't interrupting, and I was telling him about what I wanted to do in the future, you know, and our relationship progressed. It was pretty much just phone calls after phone calls after phone calls, you know. I was a very confused child. One day I wanted to be a dentist until I saw blood at the dentist and completely gave up that idea. And then I wanted to be a vet, you know, I wanted to be an actor and a journalist, and all that kind of stuff. Uri was very supportive. He used to always listen, always guide me, and our relationship became very strong. He started to tell me a lot about his own life, who he was meeting. I mean, he actually knew quite a lot of well-known celebrities back then. He used to mingle with a good celebrity, favourite celebrity of mine, James Wales, who was not just a TV presenter, but also a super radio star. You know, he used to do talk radio, now talk sport, I believe. But anyway, he used to always tell me about the people he would meet, and Michael Jackson. I'd be fascinated, especially when he mentioned Michael. You know, my jaw would just literally drop to the floor. But it wasn't just Michael. He also kept on talking about someone called Shmuley Boteach, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, who I later did a bit of research and found out quite a lot of information about him. But anyway, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, he used to tell me Rabbi was very much heavily influenced in Michael's life, and he was a very well-known rabbi. He wrote quite a number of books. I think one of his biggest sellers is Kosher Sex and Kosher Lust. I'll get into that in a bit, but that's something, you know, for another day probably. So he was very, very well known, and especially well known in the demonic Kabbalah circles. What is Kabbalah? Kabbalah is the gateway to the occult. Kabbalah is a practice, and in Kabbalah there is a notion that the practitioner of Kabbalah can harness the power of angels to carry out their agenda. And but the thing is, these are not angels, they are actually demons or jinns. And one of the well-known one is called Lilith, who the Kabbalist Jews say that was Adam's wife before Eve, which is totally inaccurate and completely false. And many good Christian commentators have even said that this craft, the craft of Kabbalah, appears to be linked to the Antichrist. And the Antichrist will practice before he comes on the scene as the leader of Europe, getting deeper and deeper, and eventually, you know, gaining success in this black art and becoming the King of Israel, the Messiah. Then he will become convinced in his heart, you know, that he's reached some sort of God status. And that's what Kabbalah wants people to do, make them feel that they are gods through these evil entities. Anyway, Uri used to tell me how Rabbi Shmuley Boteach was heavily influenced in Michael's life, you know, and it wasn't just Michael. He used to always tell me Madonna as well, you know, how Shmuley and Madonna were invited to Uri's house, and you know, they'd have a deep relationship, and Shmuley Boteach, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, will counsel them, will tell them what to do in their videos and their music, that sort of thing. And you can tell what Madonna's music is about. I mean, you don't have to be, you know, a brain scientist to know, especially songs like Frozen, where she's wearing all black, turns into a dog, then she turns into a bird, shapeshifts like an evil spirit, her eyes show sheer evil. What is this? It's Kabbalah. You get where I'm going with this. And that's what they did to Michael. They used his body for demonic entities to possess Michael. And Michael was innocent. Michael was innocent. As innocent he was, you know, he tried to resist it as much as he could. And unfortunately, it was too much. And it was far too overwhelming. And Uri kept on telling me, Rabbi and Michael had major plans. You know, they had major plans. And back then, you know, I used to think, wow, you know, they're going to change the world. Uri used to tell me they're going to bring the Kabbalah to the world. He'd tell me that Michael Jackson was almost like a prophet of the Kabbalah faith, and he could really change the world through inspiring others. Especially the fact that, I mean, he was a big, well-known figure, the Prince of Pop, and you know, back then I didn't know much about Kabbalah because nothing was online. But now I know after reading the book Zohar, you know, which is a Kabbalah book, and also learning from different rabbis, and also I have a best friend who's Jewish, whose father practices Kabbalah, Argentinian Jews, and you know, after considering all these information, I've come to the conclusion that this is what happened to Michael. You know, it wasn't just drugs. He was probably trying to stop these entities from harming him by taking drugs, by drinking, and so on. You know, but it was getting too much, to the point where he was resisting. And what did they do? You know, they tarnished his name. They tarnished his name through that documentary by Martin Bashir, telling the world that he was some sort of pedophile, when there was no proof at all whatsoever. You know, that Martin Bashir was cunning, the way he was interviewing Michael, the way they were filming, you know, it was just anti-Michael propaganda, because Michael did not want to be a part of that circle. And then what happened? They destroyed him.
They controlled him, they did what they wanted, and it was very difficult for him to say no, no, no.
You must have seen this happening. Was there anything that you could do or say to Michael to change that situation?
It's very, very difficult because in situations such as that one, we've tried so many times to intervene. And it's not always that easy because they keep everybody at bay. They keep everyone away, actually. Everyone.
How did they do that?
By controlling. And I know because I have been in a controlling and abusive relationship, but by controlling him, controlling his thoughts, control what he does, not letting any, giving orders, not letting anyone through the gates, not letting anyone near security, things of that nature. And this way they have him and they control whatever he does. The phones, no phones in the house.
Mm-hmm.